iRadio. Right, a very good morning to you and welcome to the extended hour of the Dawn program here on iRadio, a live broadcast from the capital, Juba. My name is Emmanuel J, Akile, and it's Wednesday, the 22nd of October 2025, coming to 15 minutes now after the hour of 8. Now, in the third hour of the Dawn, we are going to talk about the commencement of the 2025 Girls Education South Sudan cash transfers to eligible girls and boys with disabilities across the country. Now, the payment is expected to happen across the country, taking into consideration areas affected by floods and insecurity. Now, since 2014, the Girls Education South Sudan cash transfers have addressed economic and social barriers such as poverty and early or forced marriage that prevent girls from completing their education. So to date, over 1 million girls have benefited from these direct payments. Now in 2024, boys with disabilities also began receiving support under the program. So to talk about the commencement of this year's cash transfers, I'm joined live in the studio by Daniel Giseka. He's the Girls Education South Sudan team leader, and David Musisi, deputy team leader of Essential Services, British Embassy in Juba. It's good to have both of you in the studio, gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yes. Just to refresh our mind, maybe Daniel, let me start with you. What are cash transfers to someone who is listening for the first time?
Thank you so much, and thanks for that kind introduction. The Girl Education South Sudan, as you say, started in 2014. During that time, one of the key we were looking at the numbers of children enrolled in school, especially girls. The number was very low. You are looking at, if you are having a class of 10 children, you are having 2 or 3 of them are girls. That's very low. And then we did a research to find out why was it so. There are many reasons. One of them was the economic challenges that in an environment where the resources the families have is limited, and coupled with the culture norms of the perception on the girls around issues of marriage, then it was almost given that the boys will get an opportunity, girls will not in that situation. So the program started giving support to girls to help them address their challenges, their financial challenges which they were facing, which were stopping them from going to school. So the cash transfers that we started initially targeting the girls. As you already said, we've supported close now to 1.3 million girls in phase 2 alone. And that has been helping in terms of giving them as an incentive, which addresses some of those challenges they were facing. You could see that it has worked well. So this is the cash transfers we pay to the girls, direct to them, so that they will be able to use them to access education, to buy scholastic materials, the many things which they need. As which you say, that's basically the cash transfers. And as you said, there is an element of children with disability which started in the second phase. And as you say, from last year, we also saw that there's a challenge. We still have very low enrollment of learners with disability. And that's why we extended it to boys as well, because they are also disadvantaged. We still go out there and say we have more children with disability who are even not in school. So it's something which, again, we thank our partners, the donors, who've been cooperating with us into giving us that kind of support. And we hope that with time, the numbers will also improve the way it has improved for girls.
Right, and talking about donors, let me bring in the British Embassy. And now, David, maybe you can tell us who is eligible for cash transfers.
So the eligibility is girls in primary 7 to secondary 4 and accelerated learning program 4, as well as children with disabilities in those candidate classes.
And then why has Girls Education South Sudan maintained the classes mentioned, he just mentioned? Yes.
So, if I may.
Yes, sure.
So it's really important for us to help support girls and children with disability achieve like full life outcomes. In order to do that, I mean, we champion 12 years of quality education globally. So we were noticing that, first of all, girls, as Daniel said, had low registration in the early classes of primary and secondary school. And then what we found was not only that, the ones that were registered weren't completing classes. So the fact that we target primary 7 to S4 is an incentive for girls in those classes to go back to school the next year when they finish their exams, to go back to school, to finish their studies, to maybe go on to university and fulfill their dreams as teachers, as accountants, as doctors, and get those qualifications. So the reason we target the higher years is to make sure that girls stay in school and complete their classes.
Right. And so, Daniel, I understand there might be some steps or procedures that should first be taken. So what happened before the process actually, process of the payment starts?
Yeah, I think even as we saw there, the point David was making in terms of, if just take you back a second, if you still even now look at the number of children, whether we look at the girls and boys who are enrolling in primary 1, it's very high. You are talking of 200,000 plus. But when you look today, how many are enrolled in primary 8? You find that number, if it's girls, you have like primary 1, 150,000. Primary 8 today, we have 35,000 who are enrolled. So that means the point David was saying, that the intervention in those higher classes, because we are seeing still is a challenge there, which we trying to address, that keep them longer in school, not dropping out. Primary 5 has improved, primary 6 has improved dramatically. And in an environment where resources again are constrained, that of course makes sense. Now, in terms of the process which we use, remember, it is very important to be sure that we are paying a beneficiary, or is it a girl enrolled in primary 7, 8, senior 1, 2, 3, 4, or accelerated learning program level 4. Those are our beneficiaries. So we need to be sure that, yes, this is the right beneficiary, they are enrolled in the right class, and they are not only enrolled, because one of the condition for cash transfer is that the learner must be enrolled and regularly attending school. So when we start the year, we check that they have re-enrolled back to school, what we talk about onboarding at the beginning. We go back again to check that this learner their details are captured correctly. Remember, like the thing of children with disability, we are not using physical aspects only. You know that this, you see, we are using Washington group of questions, which help us to even identify some of the disabilities which are not visible by our eye. So all these things, we go back to do the process we call validation, where we confirm that the details are captured correctly. This learner is indeed, it's not like you have a learner in primary 7, but actually the learner is in primary 4, and we have seen some of those things so that you understand. People try to push. So we do what we talk about validation. And just something to add to that. We want to thank, of course, our implementing partners. What we have seen, the work they have done, the state anchors, in terms of ensuring that we are having correct beneficiaries identified during validation. It's been very good, and they couldn't achieve that without the support of the state governments, the county governments, going all the way to the Bayam. They've done a fantastic job, and I want to take that opportunity to thank them for that work, because it's very important, Emmanuel. It's important in a way that if we get a situation where a learner is in primary 5 is paid as a candidate, or is paid as, what that does. It erodes the integrity of the program. This is also equivalent to diversion. That's not what we are supposed to do. The intention of us ensuring that we pay. If it's a candidate and it's going to sit, we water down. And I think in between here, we have seen a bit of challenge. But again, I've seen the state government, and they are working very well with our state anchors, trying to address that challenge because it protects the integrity of the program so that we can achieve the intended purpose. And that's what we talk about validation.
So I understand you conducted the nationwide validation exercise. So would you describe it? Was it easy or difficult, or do you encounter some challenges?
Wow, that's a very good question. It has been, as you imagine, not easy. We had a situation where we had learners who had been enrolled in higher classes, primary 7, but actually they belong to primary 5 or primary 6. Identifying that is not easy, and that's why I was going to thank all the stakeholders who have worked in that exercise, including the national government. They've been very, very supportive here. The Minister of Education, Dr. Koyok, and the team supported us very well in that exercise. But also, remember what we are facing now, the situation of insecurity. Some of the areas we had to wait, and again, to thank the government understanding to extend the period of registration, the period of validation, David and the team, for us to be able, because you get the situations where learners have been displaced because of the conflict, going to where they are resettled, for us to be able to identify them. Remember, we have a situation with the flooding, which is very difficult in terms of how to access the schools. Accessibility has been a challenge. Remember, we started the year with heat waves. Once we did a very good campaign of back to school. When they come again, and then we had this, once we disrupted them, the school were closed. So all this, of course, impacts the timelines on what we wanted to do. And again, we want to thank all the stakeholders for understanding this and the support they have given.
Right. So Daniel, let me come to you. How much will each validated girl or learner with disability will receive? The amount.
So the amount differs between classes. So for candidate classes, it's 166,000 South Sudanese pounds. For non-candidate classes, it's 129,000. Now that number is seen as an amount that will support children to go to school, to buy scholastic materials, to buy school uniform, to do the things that they need to do in order to make it easier for them to make that journey every day to go to school and achieve their qualifications. It's been calculated. It's gone up and down through the years due to funding availability, but we believe it's a good amount to get girls and children with disability into school.
Right. And let me come to Daniel. Let's talk about the payments. When are they going to take place? When you're going to already to pay the learners or the students, where is it going to happen?
Officially, the payment, as communicated, begins today. Of course, across the country. Today, 22nd, and we've, of course, there's logistics involved in terms of moving and communication and all that. But one of the things where we come today is to announce that payment has started, and learners should be expecting payments from today onwards. And the intention is to ensure that every eligible learner gets paid before school closes or before the exam started in early December. So you're trying to do everything possible for us to be able to do that. I was listening from the news this morning. We have issues of cholera outbreak and all that, which normally interrupts some of this. But we try to adapt as much as possible, working with the local authorities at schools themselves to see how we could be able still, because we find even those kind of things like cholera and others make even this support very necessary. Because one of the things, again, you thank our partners, our donors, the cash transfers are, in terms of the use, there is flexibility there in terms of could be even used to support the family if that's needed during this period. So it's very handy, and that's why we really need to see that the learners who are the beneficiary who are supposed to get this money get that money, and they're paid this time, because it goes a long way in helping them, and we've seen testimonies.
In some areas where you have validated already the learner, but then the issue of access is kind of a little bit difficult. So how will you address that? I mean, and also the issue of cash. Now we're seeing the government is talking or advocating for digitalization of the payment system in the country in general. So, are you putting this into consideration, and maybe the issue of access to some areas?
Very good questions, Emmanuel. Access has been with us for the last decade. If the school is operational, what I've seen, we get a way of getting to them. I've seen our pay agents, state tankers, government walking in water to be able to reach the school if the school is there. In a situation where that, whether it's insecurity or then it's impossible to do, we wait. We wait. When there is opportunity to pay, we are able to pay that. So one thing I've seen, the dynamics, the way it's work, as you go to November, December, most of the places then start getting accessible. We will be able to do, if it's not possible, we could be able to pay maybe even in January, when it's possible to do so. We try as much as possible not to leave that behind. In terms of digitization, a very good idea. That's a way to go. We embrace that. But the reality is, still we have many parts, those parts which may have benefited from digitization, you find that even the network is not there. That means it's not even possible to be able to do. The way the digitization work is very good that the government is in the forefront to push for that. I've seen, in the region, the way mobile money is the way to go. Even here, I know that we will get there, and I think there's appetite to get there. And when the technology reaches most of these difficult parts we work, we will embrace it.
Right, and just to also mention something, since it's commencing today, the duration, when is it going to end?
It's going to be a month, so until the 21st of November. But as Daniel said, that where payments cannot be made, alternative arrangements will be made, whether or not that might be a different location or an extended period of transfer.
And are there some general, let's say, guidelines that should be followed during the payment?
Yes,
Daniel.
there are the general guidelines, of course. For one, our primary payment center is the school. We don't want to move learners from their family environment. So we do everything possible to see that the payment happens in school. The next is when we pay, when we validated the process I said of identifying and all that, because once we identify a learner, we give that learner what we call a cash transfer enrollment form, CTEF. That CTEF normally is prepared in 4 copies. One of the copy, the primary copy, sits with the learner, the beneficiary himself. So when we go to pay, and it's a weight copy, when we go to pay, we need the learner to come and they present that white copy. When they present that white copy, we already have what we call a pay list, where we will check the details. That copy has a serial number, a unique number. That unique number aligns with what we have in the CTF. So once we have checked all those details, what we talk about, that this is actually the right learner, then that learner is paid. When it's paid, that cash transfer enrollment form is signed, the pay sheet is signed, and it has to be signed also by the school, the school management committee, and the others who are around there. One of the things which we insist is that the money should be paid to the learner. Sometimes you get schools come and tell you, leave money to us. These are our children. We don't do that.
Or the teachers.
Yes. We don't do that. It goes all the authorities, whether it's the county, the state, saying these are our children, leave us the money with us. That is a no-go zone. We pay the learner. The girl has a CTF, and we ensured, one thing I'm confident, that every learner as we speak, every beneficiary has a cash transfer enrollment form, and we will ensure that they get that, they come and we use that. In very unique situation, if a learner, for example, misplaces a CTF, there's procedures we do to verify that has happened. But remember, there's a copy which remains in school. We can then use that copy in school. but then we must ensure that indeed it's the right learner, because we have seen sometimes schools which will go and they give copies to other learners when the original learner has an original copy. I think those are some of the few highlights in terms of what we need to do and in school for you to be able to be paid. There's also something else which maybe I need to add.
Yes.
We've as you talk about digitization, we've been also moving into that even in terms of identification. One of the other things which will happen, which for the first time, that when the learner is paid, there is an application. We have a MOGE, Ministry of Education application. We have worked together with the ministry, which we used for enrollment, which we used for validation. And in payment, they will log in that this learner has been paid. Once they synchronize, they get where there's a connection and synchronize that data, we get it here. Even before documents come, we will be able to see that this has happened. So there's another thing which has had to happen at school, such that we are going now, when you bring the documents, we check what you checked in that the learner Emmanuel was paid. And we see that, we will come and match that. So to make all this process very tighter, but also this we are kind of moving into that direction so that we want to make, as far as possible, a digitized process, eliminate paperwork as we move along. Yeah.
So a simple question, something just to clarify before we can pick calls. This is we are applying this only to boys and girls with disabilities, or all of them?
Boys and girls with disabilities.
Only with disabilities.
In those classes. Yes. Girls in P7 to S4.
What about the rest of the learners?
So, Emmanuel, it's a really good question. And we've worked in partnership with the government of the Republic of South Sudan over 12, 13 years since JES 1 started. Now, in an environment where we've got unlimited budget, first of all, we would pay every child to go to school. Second of all, the government would be able to fund. There's been problems with teachers' salaries. There's been problems with payments to the public sector. So in that environment, teachers would be paid, children would be in school, the infrastructure and the scholastic materials would be there. In the environment that we're currently in a resource-constrained environment, we've seen donors move out of South Sudan. We've seen programs be cut, programs change. And because it's so imperative that girls finish their education, we are targeting those classes at the top of school to make sure that the education is finished. As Daniel said, the enrollment in P1 is higher. There are still 2.8 million children out of school as per last figures, which is 60% of the school population. We do not have enough teachers, enough schools, enough children in school receiving quality education. What we can do with the little that we have is try and ensure that those children who are most marginalised finish school.
And also, Daniel, this issue we've been talking about, but I want you to reiterate it or emphasize on some parents or guardians sometimes take advantage of the situation and who do not take probably education seriously and misuse this amount of money that you are giving to the learners to ensure that they remain in school. So what would you tell them, their parents and guardians and family members out there?
Education is the greatest equalizer. If there's anything you are going to give your child, you are going to give your younger brother, your niece, your nephew, is education. Let's start there. And I think we may look at short-term benefits with very heavy consequences in the future. We've seen many testimonies of beneficiaries coming out and said, this man helped me to register for my exams, where the family understands that we are investing now, we will get more in the future. David and I could not be here were it not for education. Let's start there. Once you've seen how many people, even from this country, working all over the world, why are they there? It's because of education. So for us to be able to change that, anything which is education, we must be able to draw a line and say, we are not going to touch it, such that we give opportunity for the children. And let me just go further. It also goes to even our education managers. we've seen one of the challenges you were asking, where you find we have many men and women managing the school with integrity. But we also seen a few cases where even schools, where the teachers wants to compromise the process, the integrity, trying to cheat the system. And one of the things I keep saying, can you imagine what you're doing? What are we doing to our society, Emmanuel? We are trying to tell a young girl that when it comes to money, it's okay to cheat. What are you doing? So I think we really need to rise way and above to be able to know, like, I'm not going to set a bad example. I may need money in my pocket, but the values I'm instilling to these learners who have been placed in our hands. Teachers do a lot in shaping. Teachers now spend more time with learners than even with the parents. So those kind of values, the whole ecosystem, whether you talk about the families, the school, from the government, if we embrace education and give it the opportunity, that's the only way we can transform this society for the better. I think something which we will not appeal to everyone, that we cannot compromise on education because it changes our lives forever.
Right, that brings us to about 20 minutes to the top of the hour. It's now time to pick few calls on 0911 or 22986 بنتكلم في موضوع بتاع بدء صرف التحويلات النقدية اللي هيبدأ الليلة دي طبعا للبنات والأولاد اللي هم ذوي الإعاقة المؤهلين في جميع أنحاء البلاد. المتوقع صرف بتاع القروش ده في جميع أنحاء البلاد مع مراعاة المناطق المتضررة من الفيضانات وانعدام الأمن. لو عندك أي سؤال دلوقتي اتصل علينا ضيف بتاعنا من Girls Education South Sudan وكمان من السفارة البريطانية في جنوب السودان. اتصل علينا وقدم سؤال بتاعك وتعليقك على 0911 أو 22 986 986. Remember, also live on our Facebook page. You can also drop your comment there. It's not time to pick few calls or your comments on 0911 or 22986. Let's read few comments here on Facebook page. We have Fresh Management is saying, watching us live from Nzara County in western Equatoria State. We have Kong Gachang is saying, I'm watching live from Libya. We also have another message here from our Facebook here from Juba. This is Thomas Ball. And then another message coming in also from John Guy is saying, watching iRadio from UK, London. We also have Majok Ajid is saying, I'm watching live from Awil East County, Wanyijok. اتصل علينا وقدم سؤال بتاعك على 11 أو 22 986 986 وهذا بيجيبك في استديوهات اي راديو في صباح اليوم. ده هيجي بعد الفاصل، ما تمشي بعيد من الراديو بتاعك. صباح الخير.
Your eye on South Sudan. iRadio. Your eye on South Sudan. iRadio. صباح الخير جنوب السودان. iRadio.
إنتكم في جنوب السودان.
iRadio, for reliable and objective news from across South Sudan and beyond. Tune in to iRadio, your eye on South Sudan. iRadio, for news you can rely on from across South Sudan and beyond.
It's the break of a new dawn, and this is the dawn on iRadio.
Marhaban bek, welcome back from the break. Now we continue with our program and then let us pick calls on 0911 or 22986 986. So preferably you can also send a text to 13986 986 وهذا بيجيبك في ضيوف بتاعنا في الاستوديو ده في الزمن الممتد لبرنامج الدون الصباحي في صباح اليوم. I think we have some problem with our lines here. But then Daniel, you earlier talked about I want you to add more on this issue of are there safeguarding guidelines that are put in place for children with disabilities, especially for this program that you want to ensure that they are safe Even though, sometimes when you see children carrying a certain amount of money, it becomes an issue of insecurity. So how do you ensure that they are safe, especially those with special needs?
That's another brilliant question. There is, we've had the cultural norms around this area and the very insensitivities around it. I think one of it, we should treat children with disabilities with the dignity and respect they deserve. We should avoid name calling. There's this thing of saying so and so by identifying them by their disability, telling them that one you cannot see, that one who doesn't have a hand, those kind of things. Avoid that. The other point we try is to see that where the payment is taking place, that it's accessible. That we try as much as possible. And we even instruct our pay team to be sensitive to that. If, for example, you are changing the venue from the school where this learner is coming, we have to check at their children's disability. We know they may be difficult for them to access a different environment, and in those cases we will try, even if it means paying them from home, in those kind of situations. Another point is to ensure that when they are being paid, the payment is taking place, that they are prioritized. Give them priority, and people understand it's not possible to treat them like this. They may not be able to stand. So I think that then understand. You don't come and complain that this one on the wheelchair, why are they being moved all the way to the in front of the queue? And of course, there is also an aspect of how to do that, how to ensure that the funds are accounted for. And then we also encourage that the guardians to support them during that period. So I think generally, let's be sensitive around them. Let's avoid them calling. Let's treat them with dignity. Let's not identify them with their disability. They are enabled differently, and not treating them like they are lesser. That kind of attitude.
Right. And David, you earlier talked about the issue of funding. So we understand the UK is the biggest donor in South Sudan when it comes to education sector, and it has been supporting the people of South Sudan through the years. I understand there are international crises, or let's say the economic meltdown in many countries, and the issue of donor fatigue has been a big matter, and South Sudan is also facing this challenge. So how do we see now the future of funding of availability for South Sudan, especially from donors, but more particularly the UK government?
So I guess let me start by saying that we've been here since the birth of South Sudan. We've had this program implemented, designed, evolved, and let me thank Mott MacDonald for being our partner throughout that time, as well as the government of South Sudan, as well as other key donors, Canada, EU, Sweden, Norway, and other donors. If I can just pinpoint a part of your question where you spoke about donor fatigue, my team are here, and we're here to support the people of South Sudan to get the best education with the money that we have. We are constantly evolving, constantly doing research, constantly doing design and working with partners to think of new ideas to make sure our programs are the most efficient, most beneficial. We speak to our beneficiaries and we understand case studies of how they've gone to school. The UK looks at our Achieving Scholarship, where we send people abroad to universities to gain an education, to bring that intelligence and that knowledge and that experience back to South Sudan to build the country. Our appetite to support is not diminishing. My team are at the moment thinking of new ways to utilise the budgets. Like, as you said, some donors have left. Our appetite is still great to support, and we will continue to work with the ministry to Mott through this program and other partners to make sure that education is achieved.
Right. And this process, Daniel, the issue of now the payment, the commencement of payment today. When are we expecting the next phase? Since we're talking about the issue of funding, and does it go in line with the school calendar, or you just pay at once and then? In one way or another, does it affect the calendar of the students or the schools? Yes, I see you want to respond, David. Yes.
Yeah, so if I may, as I just mentioned, the UK government, in partnership with our other donor colleagues, are working very hard to design and that information will come to you with regards to the next phase. But can I just celebrate the fact that this program has been running for over 12 years, has through the Girls Education South Sudan program, the UK and other partners have donated more than £100 million.
All right, let's now pick few calls. We have about 10 minutes to wind up. اتصل علينا وقد مسيلة بتاعك على 11 986 986 أو رسالة نصية على 1 986 وهذا بيجيبك في استديوهات اي راديو، واحنا بنتكلم في موضوع بتاع دفع القروش اللي حيتم لذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة اللي هم التلاميذ والتلميذات. Good morning.
I radio, your eye on South Sudan. I radio, your eye on South Sudan. I radio.
Yes, we have some comments here again on our Facebook. We have Tuaha is live from Democratic Republic of Congo. We have Turkey Paul is saying congratulations. And then there's a message here from Story Kingdom. Who wrote, good morning, iRadio, and thank you for bringing Girls Education South Sudan into the studio today. My question is, across the country, there are many internally displaced persons, or IDPs, returnees and refugees who were not validated to receive the Girls Education South Sudan cash transfers. There are some of them, some of them are, they are part of the most vulnerable groups, and they often face the greatest barriers to education. So what strategies or plans does JES have to ensure that these marginalized learners are not left behind and can also benefit from the support they urgently need? Very important point there. Yes, Daniel, I want to bring you in first.
Yeah, thank you. We've tried to accommodate. Our numbers even went up almost by 30,000 because of these categories. We know, because as the situation evolves, there are more coming up. Even if some of these learners, we may not get cash transfers this time, from where we sit, there will not be many. But we are also doing a capitation grant, which has been targeting some of these. What that capitation grant does, we know that some schools have been stretched because they are not able to cope with more detainees, refugees who are coming. And they may need to add maybe a stream or a temporary learning space and all that. We are also doing it during this phase. So it's not only that benefit, of course you can even ask what happens to those categories who are not learners who are enrolled in those levels. And we want to thank again David, our UK colleagues and the others for the work they've done to ensure that all the school communities are taken care of. So that some of the things we are going to do during this phase is those capitation grants, which are going to address some of the challenges of the learners across the board.
Yes, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say capitation grants are essential for the running of schools. So the UK government this year has delivered an additional £3 million in support of the school infrastructure to make sure those schools can absorb some of that capacity from IDPs, returnees, refugees, etc. So while the cash transfer targets P7 to S4 and ALP4, I mean, there are benefits to all children that attend secondary schools through our program.
Right, another comment here also on our Facebook. Monday Ikiasa is saying congratulations, and I'm watching from Kiasa village, Zimwe parish, Kianamukaka sub-county, Masaka city, and thanks for the show. Before we can wind up, let me come to you, Daniel. Now in this process, do you have you encountered some challenges, and especially in terms of validation? And also, what do you think the government should do better to facilitate a successful process to ensure that the money reach the intended learners with disability?
Thank you so much. One of the things, there's so much, as I've said and recognized, on the efforts the government is putting. We are getting very good support at national and state level. There is need to invest at school level in terms of get strong management, strong leadership at school level. Why I say that, cash transfers stimulate demand. They attract learners to learning, but we have other supply side issues to deliver quality education, and among them is the teachers. So the point of having teachers and a strong leadership at school level is critical. That's something which has to be invested more. Such that once we have seen schools where you have a good leader, the school is stable, learning continues. We are able to, now our efforts cooperate with what the schools are doing, what the communities are doing, what the government is doing. Something else which I know that the government is working very hard, the point David made around capitation grants. The program pays capitation grants for secondary schools, and the government also pays for primary schools. I know there is effort and assurances that primary schools needs to receive capitation grants. That also helps them, because as you understand, with the economic situation in the school, the resources which will go to improve the school environment, including that learners with disabilities can have washrooms which they can access. They can have lamps which can be able to access for the wheelchairs and assistive devices. That comes a long way. So I think getting the money to primary schools is critical, and that's something which we continue to engaging with the government to be able to release the money for primary school capitation grants, because it addresses the environment generally for all learners, including learners with disability.
Right, and maybe either Daniel or David, one of you can respond to these questions. In terms of misappropriation, or let's say irregularities, how can someone report and to who and how, and is there any number, or let's say is there any mechanisms or avenue that someone can use to ensure that they report someone who is misappropriating the funds?
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you for that important question. Yeah, the UK government and Just take a zero tolerance to misappropriation. So there are telephone numbers for MTN, which is +211 928 520 824 for WhatsApp, and Zain, which is +211 917 647 891. So people have access to those numbers. They can report any misappropriation. They can report examples where someone threatens them, or they're being threatened to give over their money, or other instances where they are not receiving the money that belongs to them.
And what happens to the person being reported? Like if you report a teacher or a parent or something, what will happen to them? What actions do we expect to be taken, and who is to take it? Yes.
We have a very good mechanism in terms of, one, we protect those who report to us. It could be a learner whose seat has been taken by a teacher, feels helpless, calls us. We've followed it up, working with the national government, with the state authorities. Many cases, because even when we do this payment, we have a monitoring team from here at the national level to the state level. We have cases where the money has been recovered, returned to the owners, and administrative actions taken to those who are trying to compromise the process in any way. Yeah.
Yes, 1 minute each for your last message as we conclude our conversation, especially on this commencement of the payment. Yes?
I think for me, I want to thank you for the opportunity you gave us to speak to the nation this morning. We also thank our donors for standing with children in South Sudan for over a decade. We thank everyone involved in this process. We want to call for all of us, teachers, pay agents, state anchors, the government at all levels, to support this process and ensure that the money reaches the beneficiaries. and also in terms of the communities to provide that environment that the girls or the beneficiaries who get the money, that there is no cases of either fraud, misappropriation, or any element of theft or to them. I think we've seen communities participating and supporting this before, and we are calling on them to support this process so that we can have a success payment to beneficiaries. Thank you.
Yes, David.
Well, first of all, to start and say that we're grateful to you for our ability to come on here and celebrate the successes of this program. Hugely grateful to Mott as a partner, the government of South Sudan, as well as the other donor partners. And this program has achieved a lot in 10 years, and we will continue to strive for equitable, quality education in South Sudan for the children of South Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Daniel Giseka, Girls Education South Sudan team leader, and David Musisi, deputy team leader of Essential Services, British Embassy in Juba. Thank you both for joining us on the Dawn today. Yes, and with that, we have come to the end of the extended hour of the Dawn edition for today. Join us again tomorrow morning at the same time to get the latest on what's happening in South Sudan and beyond the borders. Up next, Soundtrack Show with Deco D. Andrew. On behalf of the Dawn team, Paulina Althea, one Moses, and producer Deco D. Andrew, this has been Emmanuel Joseph Akile. Do have a good day. Stay safe, stay blessed. I leave you with the song We Need Peace, coming to you by pupils of Gudele Primary School in Juba.